So yes, I was a little bit nervous with that, but at the same time, I really enjoy it. So I was kind of relying on that to come through and not so much my nerves of like, oh my word, there's a lot of mics and cameras in here.
Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast, where we share stories of inventors who turn their idea into a product. Please visit our website at www.inventionstories.com. And now, from the Invention Stories Podcast World Headquarters Studios in Morro Bay, California, is our host, Robert Baer.
Welcome to the Invention Stories Podcast. I am your host, Robert Baer, and thank you for listening. You're listening to Episode 9 of the Invention Stories Podcast. The Stairsteady was invented by Ruth Amos of Sheffield, England, at 15 years old. In 2006, she won the prestigious Young Engineer Award for Great Britain. In 2013, the Stairsteady was awarded Best Established Product by the British Healthcare Trade Association. In 2016, Ruth gave a TEDx talk at Cambridge University. I encourage everyone listening to watch. Our link has been provided at our website, www.inventionstories.com. Now, part of our goal at inventionstories.com is to inspire those interested in inventing to follow their passion. Ruth Amos followed hers and found success at an early age. And this is why we wanted so much to share her story. The following is the first part of our 3-part series of interviews with Ruth Amos. Ruth, it's great to have you with us today. Let's get started. You said on the video that you grew up in a fantastic family. Did you take that for granted as a kid? Did you know that? And what made it fantastic?
I think I started to realise that I had a fantastic family and that it was the support that I got was a little bit different. Growing up and even still now, we've always been quite close. And I don't think I always appreciated that. For example, as a child, I would grow up saying, as soon as I get to the right age, I'm leaving. I don't want to live in this village. I don't want to, I want to go and do something else. And actually, although I travel a lot with my job, I have ended up buying a house in the same village that I grew up with, kind of literally in walking distance away from my parents. So, yes, I think we are still very close and we still work on a lot of projects together. I've literally just come from my parents' house where my brother and sister are doing some branding work for a project they're involved with. And I think that's what it's always been like. If someone has an idea, then people rally round and give it the support it needs to make it happen, really. So, yes, I think I felt very lucky to have that, but I don't think I always realised that at quite a young age, how valuable that was. But yes, very much appreciate that now.
No, I think as we get older, that's one of those things we sort of realize it's nothing that we had any choice in, like where we were born or who we were born with. So you had a sister. Were you real close to your sister? Or did you fight like cats and dogs?
We're very competitive. Yes, I've got a younger sister and a younger brother. And there's 3 years between me and my sister. And in fact, she's a product designer. So she went to university and studied engineering. In fact, the reason that I got involved with the Young Engineer for Britain competition was the fact that she had already been involved with it when she was younger. So although I'm the oldest, we're still very competitive and also very supportive. But yes, there is healthy competition there.
Right on. Okay, so when you were in school, did you find school was easy? Was it easy for you to learn? Did you think you were one of the smarter people?
I found school most of the way through. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed it. I was probably seen as a bit of a geek, as someone who did quite well at school. Got a bit of stick for that as well. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was pretty much top set in most things and enjoyed that. I think if someone had kind of out of my class said who's definitely going to university, I think I would have been on that list. So I think it's a bit of a shock that I actually never ended up going. So yeah, but I did enjoy school and it gave me a lot of opportunities, even before kind of some of the engineering stuff that I did.
And as a child, were you did you have an engineering mind? Did you look at the TV and wonder how it worked and maybe one day pulled it apart? Or just in general, were you somebody who was just fascinated or tried to understand how things work?
So I like to know how things work, but not even always like actual like appliances or things. I would also look at like businesses or clubs and be like, oh, how do they work? Like, how do those things put together? I loved a good problem. And I always loved like playing. As a kid, I like imagined a lot of worlds and built lots of things. And looking back, I probably was always going to end up inventing and making things. I used to love kind of making things out of Lego or paper or Meccano or all that sort of thing. I didn't always take things apart. I tended to kind of try and modify things. My brother used to take everything apart. But yeah, it was a lot of the time it was kind of, I wanted to create my own thing. So we'd have, in the summer holidays, whether it would be like outside some massive kind of assault course imaginary world thing where I'd be like bringing in bits of tires and bits of like ladders and things, or whether it would be with bits of paper and little figures creating little worlds and kind of, it was all about creating or problem solving as a child.
Okay. And why did you want to become a barrister? You have such different words. Obviously, I'm from
lawyer,
California, and I had to check on that word, but I think you actually told everybody that it was some form of being a lawyer, or is it a lawyer?
Yeah, so a barrister is a form of, essentially it's a lawyer that goes and tends to argue in court. I enjoyed a good argument. But I think a lot of it was kind of around some of the TV shows that I'd seen. I wasn't massively sure about some of the careers out there. I felt that law kind of stood alongside some of the kind of ethical and justice kind of things that I was interested in, really. And I don't think I'd done a massive amount of research and kind of ended up, I'd kind of mentioned it to a few people and was like, yes, that sounds good. And I just kind of carried on thinking, right, this is the right thing to do. But actually talking to friends who were lawyers and solicitors, I think I'd hate it. But yes, it was kind of, I felt like you're pressured to make a decision quite early on about what you want to do. And the fact that I kind of had an idea made those decisions much easier. So I was like, I want to do law. And then there was a set pathway to do that. And it kind of made some of the other more complicated things in education a bit simpler. But then obviously when I ended up doing engineering and changed everything, that completely turned everything on its head. So yes, it was definitely a bit of a U-turn really, but a good one. All
right. I'm not overly familiar with London or England or the UK. I don't know if you live near Cambridge, or why did you... I think Cambridge is one of the top universities recognized worldwide, right? So why did you want to attend that one?
So I think it was part of my competitive nature. I knew that they were very good at, first off law, and then when I decided to potentially study engineering, they were also very good at engineering. So I think it always had like a soft spot. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at university, and obviously in the end I didn't end up going. But I knew that particularly their engineering course was amazing. So when I kind of very last minute ended up changing my whole kind of plan, I was like, okay, where would I want to go if I was going to study engineering? And so I kind of thought, Cambridge would be great, did a bit of research and things. So when I got invited to go to Cambridge to do the TEDx talk, I was like, I have to do it. Like, of course I have to do it there, because it was kind of one of those things that, if things had been different, then I might have ended up applying there and things like that. And it's a little bit away from where I live, so it's a little bit of a journey in the car, but it just felt like it was one of those things that I had to go and do. And it kind of felt a bit like fate, the fact that I'd wanted to go there to university, not ended up going to university because of starting the business and everything. But then they'd invited me back to do like a TEDx talk. I was like, of course.
Well, since you mentioned the TEDx talk at Cambridge, how did that come to be?
I think I do lots of speaking and hosting and presenting and things. And I think they got in touch with my speaking agent and said they were running this event, and that my story fitted really well with the theme, and would I consider speaking at it. So they approached my agent, and it was put to me, and I was like, yeah, I have to, yeah, it makes sense to do it.
Well, just in general, are you nervous? And because it was sort of a dream of yours, were you extra nervous?
I really enjoy speaking, so I'm not usually nervous, but actually that one, because, well, there's a lot of pressure as well, because it's being filmed. You have like 2 different mics on. You're told you have to stand in a particular place. Like, yeah, it's very well produced and put together. And I kind of realized that if I was going to get my talk right at any point, it kind of would be good to be that occasion. So yes, there was nerves in that, because, you know, I didn't want to mess up or say anything wrong. Whereas usually in most situations when I'm talking, even if things are being recorded, it's not quite to that production value. So yes, I was a little bit nervous with that, but at the same time, I really enjoy it. So I was kind of relying on that to come through, and not so much my nerves of like, oh my word, there's a lot of mics and cameras in here.
And that was all out of your head. I'm sure you've told the story so many times that you could tell it in your sleep backwards, but that was just right off the cuff, no cue cards, no notes?
Yeah, I tend to speak better like that. Actually, when I have very strict time allowances and have to have things like 100% prepared, that's often when I get a bit more worried about it. When I'm speaking off the cuff, it's much easier. And yeah, like you said, it is something that I've spoken a lot about. I have different versions of the kind of story depending on the audience, and also kind of gauging the audience of kind of what they're saying, those sorts of things. So yeah, I find that much easier than having a prepared kind of talk in my head and then something happening and being like, oh, but I have to get these words in, or I have to, yeah. So I find it much better just to kind of, I don't want to say wing it, but yeah, just talk.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Now, in the speech, we use different words here. You'd said something like you went to a technical college. And here, we sort of interchange college and university. So is that like a high school then, or sort of finishing? I don't understand it.
So that's a high school. Okay. Yeah. So it was just a normal state high school. So 11 to 18-year-olds went there. We had a sixth form college. So essentially the Stairsteady came out of my GCSE project, which was when I was kind of 15, 16. Essentially the school was just a normal school, but there was a bit of a trend in the government at the time that every school should have kind of subjects that they specialised in, that they got a little bit more money towards. So it might be sports, it might be engineering, it might be languages, and ours was around engineering and technology. So we had, opportunities within engineering and technology that say other schools might not, but it was just a normal kind of secondary school that anyone within the local area would go to.
Okay. That seems very forward-thinking of them. You're listening to the Invention Stories Podcast. My name is Robert Bear. I am your host, and today we have with us Ruth Amos, who has invented the Stairsteady. Now, let's get to it. Ruth, in general, what is the Stairsteady?
So the Stairsteady is a specialist handrail that is kind of the step before a stair lift. So it allows the user to keep using the stairs, keep active. It's all mechanical, so there's no electricity, and it would just replace your existing handrail.
What gave you the idea for the Stairsteady?
So as part of my GCSE resistant materials project, I had to come up with a product, and most of the people in my class did a project around storage, and I really didn't want to do that. So I asked my teacher for something a little bit different, and he told me about his father who'd had a stroke and he couldn't use the stairs. He couldn't have a stair lift or anything like that. So my teacher set me the challenge to come up with something that would allow his father to walk up and down his stairs and give him that extra support. So if he fell or if he felt unsteady on his feet, he had something that would stop him from falling. And that was essentially kind of the problem that I aimed to solve with the StairSteady. It happened in a few stages, but essentially my idea was this whole idea of like like a Zimmer frame or a walker, like a walking frame that someone who's unsteady on their feet would use, that you could have one of those for your stairs. So as you went up and down, you had a bar in front of you that would hold your weight, that you could move mechanically. And if you went up or down the stairs, it would stop you from falling. And so that's essentially still kind of the premise of the product today. It's a specialist handrail that fits on the side of your stairs. And as you go up and down, you push the bar up and down. If you put your weight on it, or if you fall, it locks and holds that in place to stop you from falling down your stairs, essentially.
Have you had any of them break?
No, we've... So it works on friction, and thanks to gravity, that's pretty much works very well. We do have parts within the product that get changed, but we've never had anyone fall or anything like that with the product. We've had a number of different people use them internationally and all kind of feel that adds to their mobility and keeping active and keeping in their own home.
Does the actual StairSteady handrail kind of flap up so you have more room to go by?
Yes. So essentially it's kind of replaces where your normal handrail would be, and then the bar that comes out that you'd hold on to at the top and the bottom of the stairs, it will fold either up or down and clear the stairs. So it doesn't get in the way. In fact, we have a really big problem of trying to get pictures of them because they're kind of cream and they blend quite nicely into people's houses. But yes, the top and the bottom of the stairs, it folds away so that other users, it's not in the way of anyone else.
And that was part of the design initially when you were doing your first prototype? Is that
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, the way that it works hasn't massively changed from my first prototype. In fact, the first one that was ever made that was installed for a friend of mine looks although some of the methods that we manufacture and some of the methods that we use to create some of the locking mechanism and things have obviously advanced, the actual look of the product is still very similar. And if you put one that's being installed this week next to one that was installed back in 2006, it would look pretty much identical.
Other than it's obviously more affordable than the chairlift, is that you actually seem like you get a little bit of a workout. I mean, not only is it just easier for you to hold it in front of something, a bar in front of you versus one onto the side, but it seems like, especially if you need all the help you can get and you're older, that you can actually get a little bit of chest exercise or arms, a little bit of a workout. It
depends what height it's fitted at. It really glides really easily. And then obviously you put your weight on it to move up and down the stairs. And I mean, one of the key things is obviously if you've got some mobility, you want to keep it up. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so, it is about kind of maintaining that mobility. But a lot of our users, if they have it installed early enough, really maintain their mobility for a lot longer.
Do you use different materials, or did you just decide on one material, and how did you arrive at that decision?
For which bit? For the locking mechanisms or the rail, or
for the like the hand, the part for the hands?
Yeah, so in fact we I don't know if you have it over in America, but essentially on our buses we have kind of vertical bars that you hold onto, and they have like a little pattern engraved on them to make them really easy to hold. And essentially that was the sort of bar that we decided to use on the StairSteady. So it is metal and it's powder coated, but it has kind of a pattern etched on it, which makes it really easy to grip. And so essentially, that's the product that we've always used for our handles on there is that, because it is something that's quite familiar to people if they're used to getting on the bus.
So you got it right the first time, huh?
I mean, very first time prototype, possibly not. But as soon as it was, as soon as we came across this, we were like, yes, we have to use this. And it's a feature that we've just kept on because people really like it. So you keep what people like, right?
Absolutely. You've been listening to episode 9, first part of our 3-part series, Ruth Amos and Stairsteady. I want to thank Ruth Amos for being our guest today. More information can be found at www.stairsteady.net and at www.ruthamos.com. If you're an inventor and would like to be featured on Invention Stories Podcast, have a suggestion on how we can make this podcast better, or would like to sponsor our show, please contact us at inventionstoriespodcast@gmail.com. We invite you to visit our website at www.inventionstories.com. Thank you very much for listening today, and please tell a friend.